So let's get into the bread and butter of our show here with what we've been playing. Like I said, we've got 4 games between the three of us in chat. You can always use the WWBP command to get a lineup of what those will be in case we're talking about a game and we haven't mentioned the name in a little bit. No, it can be confusing sometimes. So let's start, Vilos. You got 2 on your list. Let's start with you. Whoops.
Needed to make sure that the gummy worm didn't like go the wrong direction because, boy, it wanted to.
Speaking for tonight.
Yeah. So I would say my first one. I'll go ahead and go with Firewatch because I completed it over the weekend. It's a game that I just put off for no real reason,
It's a
for a
good
long
one.
time, and it's fantastic. It's so funny. It's so endearing. The world that it puts you in is very simple. Like you know what it is. You kind of know the lay of the land before you even set foot out of your what do they call it, the little lookout.
Mm-hmm.
Um and it's a short experience, and it's just this entirely character based narrative that is just pulling at your heartstrings constantly. I did fall in love with the person on the other end of the line.
Oh, how do
uh
you not by the end of it? How don't you know?
like that is technically the point, but then
Hey,
I've seen
no
that there's
spoilers. Huh?
no, I've seen that there's technically multiple endings, but technically not. So I'm I'm tempted to
Don't
try it
no.
and see
So,
what happens, but
Violence,
I'm
don't.
not spoiling
No,
anything.
oh no. I'm not worried about the spoiler. Don't replay that game, dude. Of all the games I've played, I really liked Firewatch, and it is worth one
Mhm,
really good single play.
true.
There's nothing replayable about that game. That's like the
I
least
feel like that's
replayable
the
game.
case. Yeah. Um,
But it's a good
there's
game, so it's
a
not a knock
ridiculous
against
amount of
it.
articles about
Just you know.
that. There's a
I
whole
sorry. Go on.
yeah.
Go on.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say there's like a whole subreddit sort of situation with it. It's like, what if I did just, like, let this conversation go, though? Like, is that gonna change, what happens 6 hours down the line?
Right.
But, uh,
Well,
yeah,
that's
it's
interesting. I didn't know there were like I didn't know the ending could be any different than the thing I experienced.
yeah, I guess it's been proven that the beginning stuff actually doesn't change anything, but, there is some gameplay moments, because in the very beginning, you're doing dialogue with Julia, your lady friend. Um, and just for anybody that hasn't played Firewatch though, and is tempted to get into it, it's on Game Pass, so it's hitting that indie group that Game Pass hits.
Mhm.
And again, it's 6 to 8 hour experience depending on how quickly you gain traction on the map, because you will get lost. um, you will get lost at times because they purposefully make it a little obtuse on how you pick up your map, and you can't move accurately while the map is still in front of your face. Um, but in the beginning of the game, you are set with these choices of conversation with Julia, and it sets this really somber tone, and it says that you have to go out to this national park and be a lookout to just spend a summer away from your life and your choices, and it's really phenomenal.
Yeah.
Um, it's almost like if you're familiar with Stranger Things, it's almost like you're playing as Hopper, like for an entire summer.
Oh
Like that
yeah.
is the character, Sob's favorite kind of dude,
Yep.
to be 100% honest.
I think the only time you
Absolutely.
see him though is at the very beginning though, right?
As far as officially seeing him, I think so, but then, the other character that you're talking to draws you, and
Oh
that is one
right.
thing that you can actually change to, and,
Oh okay.
but you're still definitely a bear,
Mhm.
and mostly gingery, and it's like he's such a pleasant guy to play as. It's really entertaining.
Yeah.
I really can't say enough good about it. It's
That's on the
like
short
moment to
list I'd
moment.
put with like Journey and
Mhm.
even like Ori, even though that's kind of in a weird spot as far as indies go. I don't know if Ori is an indie, but it's I don't know. It kind of feels like it. Yeah, I mean, Firewatch, people haven't talked about it in a while because, I mean, that came out probably like
It was
4
2016.
2016. Gosh, 6 years
Yeah.
ago. And there was a lot of good chatter about it, So for people who don't follow indie games, I know one barrier to indie gaming is that if all of your friends only play mainstream games, it can be difficult to know where to jump in. But hitting Game Pass is perfect because if you have Game Pass, you don't have to spend any more money to get to it, and you know that we always stand for Game Pass. Sorry, Odysseus, for not having the command in chat for the 18th podcast in a row. Uh, yeah, Firewatch is real good. It's what, probably like a 6 or 8 hour game. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're the one who just played it, so I'm just speaking off memory here. But yeah, Firewatch is such a treat. And as a funny little trivia bit, there was multiple times companies have gotten in trouble for using Firewatch's wallpaper artwork, thinking that I just found it on Google, I can just slap it up. I don't see a logo anywhere. But once you've seen it, you recognize it. So it was like a car dealership at one point got in trouble for using it. At another time, I think it was like some political party. Every
Yeah.
once in a while, political parties will stumble into that.
Yeah, I think it actually got on mailers, which is just the funniest shit.
What a
What?
It's because it's beautiful. Like it's got the lookout and the orange and red hues, just really really pretty. Fall vibes like 100%.
yeah. Let's see if I can get.
A car dealership though? Like, how does that like? It's like this baby can fit so much emotion in it. Like,
Let's see. I'm not gonna recrop this, but I will show it to chat here. This is the most iconic picture that gets used all over the place with the orange background, the orange sun and stuff. Which, hey, I can tell you, the sky's red like that because that's actually what fire season and smoke season makes the sky look like. So that's not just a pretty horizon. That's actually what the smoke does to need a fire watch. So fun fact. But yeah, Firewatch is a solid game. Very highly recommend. The funny thing about that game is, uh, the less you know about it going into it, almost the better. So like, I want to elaborate on so many things I enjoyed in it, but I hope that our glowing recommendation can be enough for you to check it out. Because truly, it's kind of like I always talk about how Bioshock, the very beginning of Bioshock 1, is scary. And when it was a very important gaming moment to me playing that game because we picked it up off the shelf hearing that it was good, but we didn't know anything about it. So we didn't even know the genre going into it. Well, the same thing happened with Firewatch. So for a portion of the game, I thought it was going to be a different genre of game. People said the same thing with Gone Home, which I've never played.
Mhm.
But there are elements where you're like, this is kind of spooky. Like, is something going to jump out at me right now? And I will neither confirm nor deny whether that happens. But it is interesting the tension that they build and the way they tell their story because it seems like it could go in several different directions. But that's Firewatch. Go play it. It's on Game Pass. It's an indie, so I can't imagine it ever being sold for over $20 anywhere from this point on.
Pretty much, yeah.
Cool. Then what if we skip over your next one and then we'll do me? Could you tell us a little bit about Somerville, if I'm saying that right? Because I'm just reading the words.
Yes, this one's going to be a quick one, but for anybody that is interested in Somerville, definitely check out Demodo's last stream from Tuesday. That's November 15th. They played a whole 2 hours of it. But Somerville is basically War of the Worlds. It is a very, it's completely narrative driven, non-verbal story that's really you're playing this dad that's trying to get back to his family after this absolutely wild alien invasion happens. It's completely filmic. It's a lot of people liken it to Inside just because of how it's a side scrolling adventure, but it's got that very specific cinematic angle to it. Like everything is so deliberate and so like it's kind of a plotting game. Like
Like
you
with
don't
plotting with a D.
Yes, with the D, like you don't get to run around. You don't have any kind of complicated controls. The one thing I will say is that it's unfortunately contextual button presses. So like you kind of have to learn, okay, I should tap A, or I should hold A, or I should wiggle the stick until I might have hit the right angle to hit A.
Yeah.
Like it's a little iffy on the control side of things. If that's like the one knock I have against it, because it's really puzzle based. It's a puzzle based adventure that is all about the narrative. It's just got these sweeping camera angles. It's got several of those moments where you're like, okay, I'm walking through um, this little dirt pathway, and then all of a sudden, the camera just widens, and you see the full scope of this giant field in front of you, and all these obstacles and potential enemies. And again, there's no combat. It's really just solving puzzles and watching things happen. But it's really beautiful. It's really stunning at times. And the full game, as far as how long to beat and stuff like that, says like you can finish it between 5 to 10 hours. And another relatively short game, but
This one I've got how long to beat pulled up. Says main story 3.5, completionist 4.5.
yeah, trust me, no.
It's a
Oh,
nice
that's
clean
Like
funny.
little route.
it's a really seriously funny how long to beat. Like that's got to be somebody that knew exactly what to do, because some of those puzzles will stump you at first just because they are obtuse,
Yeah.
and Demo Duo will tell you that some of
Yeah.
them are not clear at first. You're like, hmm. I thought
Mm,
that's how it went, but but it's a really good game. I would Anybody that wants to play something very serious and very sci-fi, have at it. It's really cool.
hell yeah.
And again, it was a day one Game Pass.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. Um, there's another game. I'd have to look in my message to see where it was, but what was the game that I kept mixing up with Somerville? It's the one that just got a 10 from IGN that I think is also on Game Pass.
Pentiment.
Pentiment. Pen, yeah.
Intimate?
Uh, for some reason I'm mixing that up with this. They're not at all the same game, but I think that they have like tiny little bits in the like splash art that I saw that I'm mixing them up. But anyway, that got such a high review, and this one seems to be getting such high reviews too. This seems like a really great time of the year to be playing indies. Also,
Seriously.
there's a bunch of AAA games coming out right now, so that's tough. But it's such a wonderful problem to have going into the holiday. Um, I mean, so we're what? We're a week away from Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a great time. Like for me, well, I live in Seattle now, and so this year we're not gonna head back to Kansas City to see our folks,
I mean,
especially
yeah, you've
since
been to like 19 weddings, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
we've been to 4 weddings this year, and 3 of them were in the past 3 months. So. Fortunately, when we were able to come back for the community meetup and everything, we pretty much saw everybody that we could see. So that was really
Penny.
dope. Um, because flying this time of year is like super expensive and stuff, but even getting rid of like that stressor around the holiday, sometimes when you're around your folks, that can be stressful too. There are plenty of times that you're with your family. Maybe your family's awesome, but sometimes you just need like something to get away. Like for me, I'm like my dad. We would go out of the room and just sit in the quiet in our computer room. He would read the paper, and I would just put my headphones on and like listen to music for a bit or something to just like unwind a little bit, decompress. And having the Nintendo Switch as well as the Steam Deck, I think are great additions specifically for holidays like this, because you can pull that thing out. I could take my Switch with me and play Cult of the Lamb for 20 minutes. Like it's no big deal. And if anybody wants to ask me about the game, great. But otherwise, I'm going to be over here in the corner for a minute doing my own thing. So indies are great for that. So hopefully, all y'all folks out there might have something new to play over the holiday, whether that's on the flight or in the in the computer room, as it were. Let's see. So jumping over to mine, I've got one indie game that just keeps kicking. That game is Stardew Valley. Let's. I'll get my footage up here. So this is funny. It's cold out. It's finally chilly season, and so I'm in the mood for cozy games. And one of my cozy games is Skyrim, but as I've talked about at length, I like the idea of Skyrim a lot more than the actual game. Usually this time of year, I'll boot it up for a few hours, and then I'm good for another year. I'll probably do that, but really, I'd rather just listen to Lizzie play so I can listen to the soundtrack. But another good soundtrack and game is Stardew Valley across the board. I got a Christmas playlist actually that has a bunch of Stardew on it. It's pretty swell. But we booted up a multiplayer server here on PC, which is fun. Lizzie and I have played before on Switch on multiplayer. But this one, I just wanted to throw something together. I told the crew that's usually in Discord that I just wanted something lower commitment that I could pop in and out of with everybody. And I was talking about how Stardew Valley is one of those cozy games for me, but I wasn't sure who wanted to play, how it was all going to shake out. So we made a world together. Shanny's been hosting. Well, Shanny Pack, and Odysseus and SJ here in our community, and also in chat, very industrious. Shanny's played the first year of Stardew many, many times. And this is, I think, Odysseus just told me, he just corrected me yesterday on this, so I know I'm still going to get it wrong. I think Odysseus has played before, but not like a lot. But as we've been able to tell with so many games we play, Odysseus picks up games so damn quickly. So there we are in our farm, essentially the three of us, and Odysseus and Shanny have been so industrious with the farming that I'm just like, nope, I don't even want to touch it. Don't get me near the farm. I'll water your crops if you want, but don't ask me to plant anything. Don't ask me to buy any seeds. I created a character. All she cares about is foraging and chopping trees and making friends with all the townspeople, which is great because neither of those two give a heck about becoming friends with anybody. So I typically just go to the saloon at night, especially on Fridays, and give everybody my gifts. You know how it is. Friends and lovers. And
I mean, that sounds like my kind of character, just building connections and forging bonds and handling wood. That's me in a nutshell.
just another day. So been really enjoying that because Shanny's hosting the world, so I'll play with them if I can, when I can. They most of the time, I've probably played with them like 80% of the time that the server's been online. So I've missed a few days, but it's not a big deal, especially since I'm not the one farming. But that stuff is a whole lot of fun. I do want to say the footage we're watching right now, I recorded today on a day one server because I forgot to hit record while we were playing. But this is me running around planting and accidentally becoming exhausted on the first day because I had forgotten that in multiplayer, if you just go and stand on the bed, then your character will gain energy as if they were sleeping. Only works in multiplayer. So once I used all my energy, it's day one. I didn't have any food to eat to get my energy back or anything. So I went to the saloon and bought some bread and used that to finish out my day so I wasn't walking at 1 mile an hour. But anyway, I'll have more to talk about Stardew later on in depth. Stardew is another top-tier indie game that you can play by yourself or now with multiplayer. It does not have cross-play, so be aware of that. But anybody on the same server, you can have up to 4 players. Something interesting that we learned is that you have 4 players on 4 accounts, but those 4 people and those 4 characters are the only characters that can ever join the game. So, like, Deadpool just bought the game when we started up the server, but unfortunately he can never join our server. It's not possible, and you can't delete characters. So we are locked into the 4 of us and only the 4 of us. So that's something to keep in mind if you have several people who would like to play together. But on Steam, where I picked it up for, I don't know, $15, I think it was. It does have remote play, which means if you and your friends want to play together and you're always going to be online at the same time, only one of you has to buy a copy of the game, and you can just remote play in up to 3 people. Remote play is wonderful on Steam. That's how we played Heave Ho the other day on Demo Duo's portion of the Extra Life stream. And we've tried it with some other games to good effect, but so highly recommend playing some Stardew Valley. Cozy game, 'tis the season, and yeah, the last time Lizzie and I played it was, I think, one or two. No, yeah, last year. We always play it around this season, and it's great for curling up under a blanket. The only thing I would say that playing on PC is easier after you get used to it. At first, the controls can be a little weird. It's difficult to describe, but essentially, I accidentally destroyed several crops because I swung my axe when I did not mean to. Oops.
Accidentally.
Accidentally.
Wow.
Huh. So there's that, but there's no substitute for being able to play on Switch, lying on your couch under a blanket. Like, for me, it's always with the Switch up above my head. That's my favorite.
So you can fall asleep and it just falls right in your face.
That's exactly right.
Yes,
That's the way to go.
So yeah, Stardew Valley, go play it. The new Chocolatier game, I'll look up when that's going to be out, but I think that comes out next year. I don't know. I'll give you information before the end of the show. I forgot to look it up, but yeah, Stardew is as good as it ever was. And I did want to say that since Deadpool got the game but can't play in our server, I do want to reiterate to people that there is no superior way to play the game. Like, multiplayer is not inherently better than single player. Yeah, you get to play with your friends, but you can't pause the game. Also, things happen in the world that your friends do and not you. And in a single player world, you have full control over everything, which I think is a great part of that game, discovering things on your own. So some games like Don't Starve, I love playing with other people because I can teach them. But Stardew, I think, is almost better learning everything yourself, and the ability to take it at whatever speed you want is great. Odysseus and Shanny going a mile a minute, and I'm walking around sniffing the fruits and berries. It's wonderful. You can quote me on that. But yeah, that's Stardew. We'll be playing more of that in our Discord if you ever need something to pop in and just deafen up and watch. But that's all for me. I'll have more to play or more to talk about next week.
Has there been any news on Chocolatier at all?
That's a great question that I can answer probably after you talk about Pokemon.
Well, shall do that.
Perfect. I'll get your thing up here.
So
Go.
I have been playing a bunch of Pokemon Fire Red, but not as like intended, we'll say. Not as Nintended
Huh.
by Nintendo.
Huh.
I have been doing a special challenge run called an Ironmon run. And moreover, I have been doing a special difficulty of that challenge run called Kaizo Ironmon. And Kaizo runs are derived from like really difficult, super technically challenging Super Mario World ROM hack runs. So the person who has invented this type of difficulty for this challenge run has taken that mindset and applied it to the Pokemon Ironmon run. So what basically an Ironmon run is, it's a Nuzlocke, which means that there's permadeath. You have to nickname your Pokemon, and you can only have like a set amount of Pokemon, each time.
Mm-hmm.
But what makes it difficult for the Ironmon run, specifically the Kaizo Ironmon run, is you can only have one Pokemon ever at a time, ever, period. And so that's
insane.
Pretty tough. Yeah. this mode has been described as it's not even supposed to be fun or fair. And I'm starting to get to the point where I agree with that. But it's been a lot of fun so far. I've been streaming it so far on my own channel, which the footage of which you can see here. I assume because I don't actually have the stream pulled up. But
yep, you can see it right now.
Okay, cool. This is actually one of my favorite moments during my run last time. I had everything that you get is randomized. So all your starters, all the wild Pokemon, everything that you faced in the gym leaders, like all the trainers, they all have randomized Pokemon. And so you could just basically run into, I don't know, like a Raikou in the wild. Just sitting there,
But the fact that you have a Pelipper.
Yeah, so the what happens in this clip is that I have a Pelipper with Drizzle, which is amazing because what Drizzle does is it summons rain as soon as you send out the Pokemon. Well, Pelipper's a water type. So if I have a water type move, then it'll be boosted in the rain by the power of the rain. But I also have thunder. Or I'm sorry, I don't have drizzle with Pelipper. I have drop. I have thunder. So thunder, right? Speaking back to rain, gets 100% accuracy, right? So I'm like, okay, that's cool because normally thunder has like 70% accuracy. However, my Pelipper has drought, not drizzle. Sorry, it has drought, which summons the sun when you send it out, which halves the accuracy of thunder. So I'm sitting here like, oh, look at me, a Pelipper with thunder. And then I realize, oh, I have drought. Well, that's going to be fun. And I'm against a Lapras, which is weak to thunder. Would be really great if I had some rain. But nope, I got the sun.
Nope. You know, that's funny that you would say that because I have heard Odysseus in the past 2 days talk so much about how in Stardew, he's always wishing for rain and it just never shows up. So, like, what you're describing right now is a completely different game, but exactly the same, like, weather
The darn
mechanics.
sun!
Right.
Like, people are always talking about praise the sun. Well, I'm cursing the sun.
Yeah.
Like, this is too much sun.
We're a Curse the Sun community in here. Let it be known.
You could quote us on that too. So what ends up happening is, I'm using thunder and it's surprisingly hitting, but my Psycho one just barely misses. This is for the listeners only, by the way, because I mean, if you're watching right now, you can see the footage. It barely survives the second thunder with literally one sliver of health, and I'm over here celebrating because my thunder is like hitting, like despite the sun being out, and I'm just like, oh, okay, you know what? We might get past here. We're gonna win. We're gonna win. I even dab on the camera, which
Yeah,
is
you
something I
do.
never do. And then it survives, and I'm like, oh, I dabbed too soon, and it hits me with a critical what is it, Hyper Fang, and I'm like, well, that's the way the cookie crumbles in the
Yep.
Kaiser Iron one. So, I've been having a lot of fun with the series. As you can see in the footage, I made customized sprites. That's me running around and me throwing the Pokeball and stuff. And then my rival is Grand Pooh Bear, who is a Super Mario speedrunner and also he was the one who inspired me to do the Kaiser Iron one because he's doing one himself. So
Nice.
go check him out, Grand Pooh Bear, spelled like it sounds, and Bear the animal, not Bear the naked ladies. And like he's a really cool guy, really cool dude, and yeah, this thing is hard. You can't even so you can't even heal, y'all.
What?
You can heal in Pokemon centers, and you can heal with healing items you find on the ground,
Oh, but you
but
can't.
only during
You
battle.
can't like buy any potions or
You
anything like
cannot
that.
buy any potions or anything like that. You can't even use like the healing zones in the Lavender Tower or in Silph. Like you can't do any of that. And you can't have any hold items. Like this was not designed for you to have fun. All the
The
boss
way
trainers,
these
quote unquote,
challenges
are
go.
stronger. Like they have more Pokemon.
Hey, real
I
quick,
made my first leader.
I switched the footage to be full screen, so everybody can see you dab
No,
in high quality,
my hubris.
and you're like, oh, it hit. Wait for it. Wait for it. We're gonna wait for it.
I mean that super effective was like 55% of that Lapras's health, but
Yeah, what
you
happened is I
were
got
under
a high roll
leveled.
the first time, and then I
There
got
it
a low
is.
roll.
Yeah.
That's just good fun.
How could this happen to me?
And it was like exactly when it hit the one, just zoop, and the dab.
Like, are you dabbing? Oh no, we can't have it.
Wow.
Get out of here.
Tragedy.
I think my favorite part of this whole challenge, though, is that I made the first leader, Bowser. So he's got his own custom sprite and everything, and like his name in the game and all that, and Kitty Tail. And
Indeed.
so he's the one I've been losing to because he has, instead of the standard 2 Pokemon that the first leader starts off with, in Kaizo Ironmon Run, the first leader starts out with 5 Pokemon. And I only have 1.
Oh.
Yeah.
Easy.
So I mean, I could be 1 or 2 every time I get to him, but he's been loving this because this is the only way he could beat me in a Pokemon battle. So
Hey.
he's just been like,
Oh, called out.
he's just been like teasing me about it. Like, I can't believe you lost to me. Haha, I'm the Pokemon master. And I'm just sitting there seething, like, you.
That's wonderful.
That
Well,
with
sweet.
with a high quality dab. Thank you. Thank
That's
you.
right. Yeah, top tier. Top tier. Well, wonderful. So that's I mean, I've been tuning in here and there to watch that. That's just that's wild to me for you to play something so tremendously difficult. But it does seem like a really exciting way to incorporate all the like knowledge that you've gained over the years to be like, it's a roguelike essentially. You're like, I don't know what's going to happen, but when it happens, I'm going to be prepared. One
That's a
Pokemon
good way to look at it.
seems crazy. That seems crazy. But I know you can't talk about it this week because you haven't played it yet. But how much are you looking forward to the new Pokemon drop tonight?
That's where I'm going, and right after this pod,
Yep.
right to GameStop. Which I said I don't like. They keep trying to get me like that pro membership or whatever, and I'm like, I don't shop here often enough to use that. How many times have I been to GameStop this like in the past 3 months? And I talk about it on the pod. Look, I even went there today and I got the new Splatoon 3 amiibo that dropped. Like,
Lol.
oh, they don't have small fry.
Yeah, you got to give them your phone number. You know, that's
Well, I know everyone who works there. Like, they're all my friends, so they already have it.
well, wonderful.
Too.
Cool. I'm excited for you. I told you I would get information on that thing, and I totally did not. Stardew Valley chocolate game, chocolatier. Let's see if Google gives us.
Chuck.
Stardew Valley me version.
Let's see. Haunted Chocolatier is the name of the game, made by Concerned Ape, who made Stardew Valley. Blah 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 blah. I think this article's just from the announcement. Okay, we don't know when it's out.
Great.
But I'm really
That's
looking
fine.
forward to it. I haven't even looked. I mean, the reason I didn't look it up before is because it's one of those it'll be here when it's done situations. I mean, Stardew has gotten updates across its platforms now for a long time, for much longer than I ever thought. Basically, the one person who made the game would spend. I thought they would have transitioned all of their work to the newer projects sooner, but honestly, with how good and replayable Stardew is, that's fine with me. But anyway, I don't have concrete information on the Haunted Chocolatier, but I'll be watching it like a hawk. But what do you say? What if we take a little mead break here? Carlos, you can mention our sponsor. I'm gonna go run and grab a snack real quick.
Yeah, I should probably re-up on it.
Oh, you got it. Do you have an empty glass now so we can hear that pour?
That's right. I do. So yeah, just a reminder, everybody that is out there, if you ever find yourself in the KC metro area or in Wichita, why not? There is a place called Wildwood Cellars. They are a sponsor of ours that we just had a nice little casual uh, partnership with them to let you guys know a little bit about their fucking delicious
Whoa.
product that they have. So, like, I cannot state it any clearer than that. Um, but in the KC Metro, places like Lucas Liquor, I know you can find Wildwood Cellars. Um, and they also have a really good shipping site on Vino here that I will pull up. That like seriously, their mead. They've got a lot of different choices, including one of their newest meads is peach. And for those of you unfamiliar with mead, again, anybody that is of legal drinking age, mead is a honey fermented honey drink that is just absolutely amazing. It's very sweet, decent alcohol percentage, typically around 12.5% or a little
And
bit higher.
and you get to feel
Uh,
like a Skyrim character, you know?
I
And
mean,
it's straight from the
definitely.
bees bat, y'all.
That's right.
They just squirted into the into the pot.
Yuck.
Is that how it
I
went?
was with you
I
until
don't
the
know.
squirting. Yeah, I can't.
You're not gonna hear that on every pod, but
You know,
it's
you can't
implied.
see my face right now, so you don't even know who's saying it.
Right. So Wildwood Cellars, again, I'm dropping the Vino Shipper site here for anybody that's interested. Um, they do ship very well because what I got was a 6 mead package that has some really cool packaging that like perfectly fits the bottles. I don't even know how they did it, but they're known for elderberry concentrate and their elderberry wine, and they decided to make some mead with their elderberry product. So you can find things like their elderberry mead, elderberry blackberry mead. Uh, if you want to go away from the mead stuff, there's tons of different wines. They've got an elderberry sangria, even if you're into that sort of thing. Just really anything that you'd like. Their bottles are actually on the low end as far as budget goes. Like you can find stuff. I know if you find it at Lucas, you can usually get it $12 to $13 for a regular bottle of their normal mead. But most of their stuff sits in that 15 to 20 range per bottle, and it's just outstanding. I've really got to try out some of their wines and stuff sometime because they have 3 different places that you can straight up walk into, and they've got a couple tasting rooms and stuff. So yeah, hit up Wildwood Cellars if you are interested in getting some stuff shipped to you. Go to that Vino shipper. They can actually, depending on your shipping situation, they can even get stuff to you in like 2 days. I think it's all through UPS. So really cool. It's been nice to work with them this little bit, and I look forward to getting some more mead here in the next few weeks because I kind of drank a lot. But also, you saw Chris last week drink
Oh my gosh, he's
the
like, wow, we have all
elderberry.
these tasty beverages. I know. I'll make an incentive to drink real fast.
Yeah, listen, I'm gonna remind everybody that that was a dumb decision. That was not ever my decision. I
I
told
know.
him not to several
He
times.
did it to himself. He's like, I'm gonna drink the gross sodas, the mystery jelly beans, and drink this mead. All
I was like,
back to
I
back.
literally told him multiple times. I was like, "It will get you fucked up. Don't like that. It's alcohol."
I'm gonna have to go back and
What?
watch that VOD. So
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Who is
no,
it?
he drank half the bottle in the first go, and I was like, "Bruh."
You can tell there's a very visible change on when it starts to get as either Odysseus or Russ put it, both Lucy and Goosey.
Yes.
was he speaking in cursive?
The pinky's out. That's funny.
And like he had the elderberry blackberry, and that shit is delicious. It is meant to be sipped, and then when you're, when you really are in that right spot, then maybe drink a little bit more. But it's really good.
Indeed. I'll mention it again at the end of the show, because technically we're on our little break here. But go check out our VODs here on Twitch for Extra Life. Those will be available. They're still available from 2 weekends ago when Vilos and Sav both took a day, Saturday and Sunday. And then this past weekend when we had the Community Day where Demo Duo streamed on their channel. And then we streamed a couple games over here on ours. And then this weekend, originally I had a lineup prepared that had several games, but now I've decided it's only going to be one game, and we're going to play it till we beat it. You can probably guess what it is, and I'll say it again at the end of the show. So
Nice. Here, I'm gonna grab that other bottle here real quick.
glug glug. We need an emote for that. In World of Warcraft, the orcs say zug zug.
Zug zug.
Zug zug, and yeah, I would like an emote that's just chug chug. With, I don't know, a beer glass or, well, I guess a
I'm
glass of
surprised
mead.
Oath doesn't have one for it.
Now that we've spoken, it's probably someone just came up with it, and Odie already subscribed in the past 15 seconds to be able to find it.
He's got blisters on his fingers. From subscribing so quickly.
Yeah. Well, chat, thanks everybody for joining us. Odysseus, always a pleasure to have you here in chat with us as well. I saw Fuzzy up there. I saw Deadpool. Who have I missed? I think that's everybody. Yep. I think that's everybody. Just wanted to give you a shout out. Thanks everybody for saying hello.
Tangent here real quick. Devolver has a really funny tweet right now. If Twitter shuts down, we're not going to beg you to follow us somewhere else, but you do have to buy every future Devolver release at full price until you die. So.
Oh man, isn't it a funny thing if we just take it aside, because we are about to dive into a little bit more serious territory here. Well, actually, it's definitely more serious territory. But what a wild thing to see what could be the collapse of a huge pillar of the internet before our eyes. Like it just keeps happening, and we can all see it happening, and there's nothing anybody can really do. And it's also like, what should we even try to stop it? It's a train wreck that it's like we could warn the conductor and the cars that are about to get hit, but maybe this one just plays out. Maybe we just see where the chips fall. But it's an unusual thing, and I wonder if there's going to be anything like quite like this in the rest of our lifetime. Who knows? But what an unusual year it's been for Twitter. A usual couple months.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's
it's like Tumblr all over again, except for happening much more quickly.
Okay.
yeah.
What's that meme? It's like, if I had a nickel for every time a major social platform had a giant collapse right in front of our society's eyes, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot if you think about it, but it's weird that it's happened twice.
Yeah.
Okay, here, let me get this elderberry
Yeah,
for
just use
real
Ooh,
quick.
gotta hear the glug glug.
Right.
Oh, let's get wait. Vilos, can I show just you on screen? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Hold on. Okay, here we go. There we go. Oh, oh, baby. Mm,
That
Vilo's
is
the
our
ASM
elderberry.
artist right now.
yummy.
That was really nice.
That is nice.
I really do like the newly opened bottle glug is like one of the most satisfying sounds
Yeah.
ever.
It is nice. So Lizzie and I don't do it very often. We drink plenty of beer, but we usually drink cans because they're the most convenient to buy in a number that makes sense for us. Um, but occasionally we'll get something really nice. Usually, like a special something. When we had better access to Boulevard, or at least better access to their like special stuff, we would get the bigger ounce. I forget what they're called, but essentially a tall boy version of a bottle.
The
That
crowlers.
are they called growlers?
Crowlers or growlers, either one.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
familiar with a growler, but I'm just talking about the ones that are like it's just like a supersized beer bottle. A growler is like
Yeah.
big. You know, a growler's like a jug. So it probably is a crowler because I can't picture what a crowler looks like, so it's probably that. But we loved getting those because they're perfect to split between two people. Because sometimes they're either so strong or they have just like a very powerful taste that it's easier to split up than to try to finish it by yourself. I just had a Facebook memory pop up that was from last year, or sorry, 2 years ago. Time's a construct. That was when we got the Worth the Wait beer from Boulevard, which is exactly what I just described to you. We popped that open. We'd been saving it for a while. We popped it open the day that we got the PS5, and Lizzie loaded up Miles Morales on the TV. And it was basically a snow day. We spent the whole day inside being cozy, hanging out with our cat and drinking tasty beer. That was a good day.
That sounds like a good day.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, whatever. I'm looking forward to the holiday. We're up here, just the two of us. We've got some friends up here, but I am looking forward to cooking some food. Well, I'm looking forward to hopefully not being in Lizzie's way while food is cooked.
I was about to say you regretted that statement for a minute.
Yeah, well, because
Love
Lizzie was here. You know, Lizzie's very nice about it, but I'm just not knowledgeable enough in the kitchen to stay out of the way. So, like, I can help at the beginning, and then I just have to get the fuck out. Which is exactly why from growing up, that's always what the kitchen was at our holiday get-togethers. Like, I would wander in there looking for a beer or like a cookie when I was younger, and immediately would be like, "Oh, I got to get out of here!" Like I got to get out of here.
Don't even touch the green beans.
Yeah,
What are you doing?
Like, I'm just like, "Hey, does anybody need help?" And
One
they're like,
space.
"Nope, lots of people, just too many people." I'm like, okay. So we're looking forward to doing more cooking. Lizzie is really really good at that stuff, and it's wonderful having a partner like that where I get to reap the benefits. But yeah, looking forward to some indie games, good beer, and good food over the next week. Hope everybody else is too. So
I can cook too. I'll just put that out there, y'all.
you're a legit snack.
Aw.
So let's get into. We're back from our break. Let's get into some more serious content. As we said at the top of the show, the games industry always has stories coming out. Since we do live in a Twitter world where it's very easy to get people's firsthand accounts of things that happen, in the various corners of the world. Game devs, we've been able to see people up and down the chain of command, maybe. For game development, there are lots of roles in that industry and lots of different companies that are very different shapes and sizes and treat their employees much differently. Sometimes across the board, sometimes on a case-by-case basis, as we'll talk about here in a minute. But Vilos and Sav mostly headed the charge here, living a little bit more in the Twitterverse than I do. You guys are more exposed to, like I said, those firsthand accounts of what's going on in the games world, because just any person can speak their truth, and so it's a lot. You get a lot wider variety of perspectives when some sort of gaming dramatic news comes out, whether it's like a scandal or good or bad or anything. You just get more of a look into the life of a game dev, and where a lot of people see that as a dream job. It's important to remember that the reality of that situation is that it is just like any job. It is a job, and that comes with a lot of things that aren't pretty, or a lot of compromises and anything in between. But we're gonna look into some of the reality of what some of the game dev world looks like. Some of the negative things that have happened over the past few weeks, or recent months, as well as at the end, I'm gonna bring up some of the good companies that we want to spotlight, because the games industry is not inherently bad, but you need to know what you're getting into to avoid the worst offenders on some of these repeat scandals. So, Vilas, I'm going to hand over the reins to you.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said here, but we're gonna try to keep it pretty concise, and I think me and Sav have some conversations on that final bullet point. I think on our doc here.
Mm-hmm.
So for those that aren't quite familiar, a lot of the issues in the gaming industry over the past year or two have come from not only COVID effects on the workplace, but mergers and acquisitions. I've mentioned that before in some of our other topics and stuff like that, but this lets us dive in a little bit further. Um, for example, I am actually at a job that was my workplace was acquired, and I have seen constantly, and especially this week, how the effects of that go down. When somebody is worth this set amount of money, and then this gigantic company over here says, you know what, I'm going to give you a stupid amount of money that you can't resist, and then everybody else that doesn't know what's going on is left in the wake, and a whole lot of stuff goes down, a whole lot of confusion, and even in my personal experience, which actually uh, doesn't even include like not even 500 total employees between the two companies. We're seeing, Blizzard, Activision, and stuff like that being 10,000 plus employees that are affected, and my acquisition after a year and a half is not complete.
Yeah, right.
It's not complete, and it's still it's not even a work in progress. It's janky. It's broken, and things are trying to be fixed. So in even greater numbers, it's so wild to see any of these companies still going. Um, but one example that I thought was really cool, I saw on the Friends Per Second podcast last week. Matt Booty, the head of Xbox Game Studios, had an interview describing how executives and the non-developer side deal with decision making and budgetary and scheduling tasks and stuff like that, while the dev side is worrying about knowledge transfers, so sharing ideas and concepts and tools that make their jobs easier, and like they're at odds with the overall goals of the company, that are, hey, we need to hit this release date, we need to do this, we need to do that for the customer base or for our fiscal responsibilities, um, and that interview was just a really good taste of the corporate side that gamers and those of us that aren't directly in the industry may not see very often, or don't pay attention to in the Twitter sphere and things like that. And besides that, uh, Twitter and other social sources create a whole lot of negativity, like you discussed, Tegan. But some of these stories that we're going to talk about, it's really important to hear some of these truths and challenges that are seen um, on that side of things, so everybody can have that better sense of understanding and perspective. Because gamers, there's a lot of negativity based on emotion, right? It's we need to have a little bit of that knowledge behind it to realize.
Yeah, there are
Uh,
a lot of people who game about as much as we do, but they don't know what any of the industry looks like. And a lot of people don't care. You know, they only
yeah,
see the industry as something that should appeal to players. They don't see uh, that the people behind the scenes there are real people. They're just average people, and sometimes the decisions, like you said, there's such a big difference between the like marketing versus development sides of a company that everything might be totally great until the 90th, you know, until you're 90% through development, and then marketing announces that there are microtransactions, and suddenly a developer is getting like a death threat from somebody who just hates microtransactions, and it's just like, this is not, why would you speak to someone that way? And that's not their decision, and they couldn't have done anything about it. So yeah, anything we can do to combat behavior like that, like I said at the top of the show, building a good community is like building a garden. You've got to do a lot of things, and two of those things are pulling weeds and watering your plants. So we spend a lot of time watering our plants, right? Nurturing the good. But this is one of those times where we really want to highlight, we got to pull some weeds. Because when people pull bullshit, whether it's players or companies, right? Those are real people, and especially with like a Blizzard Activision, like you said, 10,000 plus employees. Um, you can see in some of their business decisions that it becomes a numbers game. It's when you have that many people, they're not people anymore. They're just a number on a sheet, on a payroll. But anyway, I'm talking more than I even wanted to.
what are you doing?
Yeah, what am I
A lot
doing?
of a lot of the reactions that you were talking about, Tegan, like all of the vitriolic, like knee-jerk reactions and stuff comes, like all of that ignorance comes from people's perception, of what the industry is and like who's behind pulling all the strings and everything like that.
Mhm.
So, like I agree, anything that we can do to enlighten those people as to what's actually happening and what's actually going into these decisions and all of the conversations and stuff that we have privy to, the better. Because when it comes to corporations like Activision Blizzard and stuff, I have some friends who work there. Like I have some friends on the Overwatch team and stuff, and so it's really hard for me to watch all of these people online just bashing and bashing and bashing all the decisions that they had nothing to do with, and I'm just like, well,
Well,
what
even
do that?
in this specific context, it was tough with Overwatch 2 around the corner, trying to decide if we were going to play the game because there were so many shitty things that had to do with Bobby Kotick all the way at the tippy top of the food chain, and some of the other people, Jesse McCree, who the character was named after, and all these other people who are like in different parts of the company, but they're all way up at the top.
Yeah,
Or they've been around for a long time. And so it's difficult being like, well, do we boycott the game? Because you see tweets from the developers and they're like, hey, I put a lot of time into this. Like, I completely understand if you want to boycott the game, but I would love you to play the game that I just spent all of my time and energy and poured my heart into. I'd love for you to see that. So it's difficult because if you're boycotting the game, who are you hurting? And I'm not saying you shouldn't boycott. It's not that black and white, but it's just an interesting conversation when there are so many people who are not responsible, uh, potentially affected by the decision you make as a consumer, whether that means spending your money a specific way or going on Twitter and shouting as loudly as you can. You know, stuff. And there's never a simple way. Um, can I jump in? Can I read this one that was the last one you've got on here? Can I mention this real quick? Um,
I guess
so
we're gonna
the
fight about it.
maybe we'll fight about it. So a bunch in the news of the past month was the original voice actor for Bayonetta. All right. Um, she posted a video that went viral that was about her talking about basically being underpaid, like very, very, very underpaid for the work that she was expected to do. So she ended up being replaced by Jennifer Hale at one point, or for Bayonetta 3. But there was an outpour of support for her to be like, whoa, yeah, you offered her barely any money for a lot of work. Like, what happened? And the studio that launched Bayonetta 3 came out and they were like, "Hey, so this is kind of there's more to this story here, and here's what it is." And so when that came out, it was like, it seems like the original video was missing key context. If we had a fact checker, it would have said, "Hey, this is missing important context." And so it went back to Hellena, if I'm saying her name right, that's how I've always said Hellena. Hellena Taylor, who posted another video and string of tweets saying, well, it was this and actually this part and all this stuff, which really didn't do anything except make it murky, made it really difficult and a spectacle of what was going on. Because suddenly it went from being a pretty black and white, you rooting for the little guy situation to being very confusing. But then it went on. She basically, I mean, maybe this is a dramatic thing, but I don't think it is. She like weaponized the support that she was trying to build for herself, for her case, and was like, "Hey, boycott Bayonetta 3 and instead spend your money on any of these charities." And one of the ones on the short list was anti-abortion. It was an anti-abortion charity. And it's just like, okay, so
Kentucky.
Like something from Kentucky. Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
And it's like
Like of all places.
if any of this hadn't been murky enough, like now you're taking any support that you had to go towards, squashing women's health care. It's just like, how did we get here? Like, how did all of this play out? And now everybody's just looking around, shrugging. Like, what are we doing here? But that was especially difficult because you had like Jennifer Hale. She tweeted that she was like she couldn't talk about it because of the specific role, like because she's not in a position to speak about it, which is smart. But that she absolutely believes in voice actors getting paid with their worth, which she has been very vocal about.
she's literally been part of the labor union many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really difficult because that's an example of that conversation getting very murky as a result of having more perspectives. It seems like a totally avoidable situation that never needed to happen. Certainly not in the way that it played out. But that was tough because through that we did get a look at what voice actors are paid and why they're paid what they are. She went into her resume basically. I can't think of the word right now, but she was like, I trained here and I did this and I did all of these things, and those are worth the money to do this, that, and the other. But then she went on to say that, or the confirmation from that we saw in that Kotaku article basically said, yeah, the $4,000 she said she was offered was only one part of this package of voice lines. I'd have to pull up this article again here, but it was a lot less simple than here's a chunk of money and you have to do whatever we want for this project, But I think she was painting it as an overly simple situation, which does a disservice to anyone who's even trying to understand voice acting. Because regardless of her position, it really made it difficult to understand what labor was expected for what work or for what compensation. I don't know. That's the one out of all these that I actually know the most of. So
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I mean, there's definitely two sides to see, two sides to listen to, and actually, for sure absorb. It's just unfortunate that she herself ruined
Her own
ruined the whole
credibility.
voice.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because she did strictly say it was 3 or 4 videos initially, and it was in one string on the first day, that she's explicitly said $4,000, which
yeah.
is basically one session of voice acting. And then the numbers came out with Jason Schreier's article, that it was multiple offers, and eventually as much as 15 grand. And as people that have been playing Bayo 3 know, that's because Bayonetta herself is actually less of an important part of the plot in this game, even though it is the main character of the game. Uh, there are multiple characters and a multiverse of sorts for Bayonetta, so it's not just about her anymore.
There's
So it does make sense
Bayonetta,
why she's
Bayonetta.
left it.
Beretta, Sonata.
So it's just wild how it all fell through. And it sucks because this again is not something that's black and white. But again, like if you start doing things and saying things that are you painting yourself as someone that maybe we shouldn't be agreeing with, then man, why are we fighting anymore?
Yes, tough.
All I'm going to say is that Steve Bloom came to support Jennifer Hale, and
Hmm.
that's all I needed. I'm like,
That's true. That's
I
true.
mean, I was like, that's the end of the conversation. I'm like, oh, okay, well, judgment decided.
It is nice having people like that who are so vocally on what I perceive to be the right side of so many of these arguments. Um, in my personal life, I've learned a whole lot about unions over the past few months, and um, seeing how important that has come to be in my work life. Not just the implementation of it, but man, Kitty's really crying outside. But the just the knowledge of collective bargaining. It's really nice to see people like, I mean, Jennifer Hale was on an interview, like a group call in a conference at E3, I think 2 years ago, and she got so emotional about people being treated, or being treated fairly and with respect, like to voice actors, that she was tearing up on the show. Like she has been such a hard advocate. And it's nice when you have like a shining star like her who you can look to. Like for me, I can be like, okay, I probably agree with whatever she's saying. What's going on in here? So it's really nice to have positive voices like that you can trust, because sometimes the curtain is so broad um, in the industry where unless you're on Twitter, so like I'm barely on Twitter, um, it's very difficult to really know what's going on. Like when everybody's speaking, it's hard to know who to listen to. So yeah, nice to have the Steve Blooms and the Jennifer Hales of the world.
Steve Bloom, Neon White, go buy it.
I mean, you're not wrong. It's on Game Pass.
So Sav, you've got another one that has to do with talent, artistic talent about
Yes, and
something about you.
also misrepresentation of information. Yes, I do. So one of the biggest things that have been going around recently is the handling of the Doom OST, which is not to be confused with the Doom background music of the game, because those are two different separate entities. They're all mixed a certain way for production of a game rather than production of like a disc or an album or anything like that. So I just want to clarify that right now for the OST that arrived with the collector's edition. It all started when I was a child. No. Basically, the collector's edition released with a product, the CD or the soundtrack or whatever, that was deemed universally subpar, especially for the quality of music that we're used to coming from this composer, Mick Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
And so, fans were just rightly perplexed. They were just like, what's going on? Why is it so bad? Da 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 da. And so the executive producer for, I can't remember if it's id Software or Bethesda. I can actually just pull up the article right here because there's
Yeah,
so many
Bethesda.
changing hands. Is it
Yeah,
Bethesda's?
Bethesda. Yeah, because
Okay,
they're
because there are so many changing hands, like so much conversation going on that like it's easy to mix up like who's saying what. But basically, Marty Stratton, who is id Software's executive producer, came out with like this super long, basically a novel. It was like 1,500 words or 1,000 words or something like that. On Reddit, that was just like, so this is what happened with the collector's edition soundtrack, and it was basically a bunch of gaslighting, disinformation, finger pointing, basically everything that said we did everything in our power to make sure that the product was final, but Mick Gordon was a baby, blah blah blah. I mean, paraphrasing, obviously, but uh, so that's what happened. That was the whole start of the whole thing. Is Marty finger pointing and gaslighting and misinforming the masses about the production of the CD and how it ended up the way it did. Um, and what
Ha ha.
makes it too hard
CD
to
is right.
that's not the direction I thought you were going, but I'm glad you went that way. um, but the way that he made it so convincing was that he peppered his giant essay with like, a little bit of the industry background, like the conversations that they had, what contracts were discussed and things like that to make it sound like legitimate. Like, oh, okay, well, obviously he's providing to like both of the perspectives of the concerned parties. Here's the information that was exchanged, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, a professional gaslighter does this like breathing. So, of course, it was very convincing. And people were inclined to believe his word. And so they started harassing Mick Gordon to the
Naturally.
point, naturally, as the internet does. So it got so bad that Mick actually came out with a rebuttal. And this rebuttal basically points out all of the errors and like it was basically a fact check, um, on the original claim by Marty. First of all, we found out that Mick never actually approved the release of the soundtrack because he understood that it wasn't going to be the quality that it should have been. And secondly, we find out from him that he wasn't even approached to be like to offer his work on the soundtrack until after it was announced. Yeah,
What?
he had already been listed as a contributing artist on the soundtrack before he was even informed or approached to be contracted for the work that would go into making the soundtrack.
Fun fact, he didn't get paid for 8 months.
Right. And I was gonna
He probably just works for free.
I mean, so
Yeah, that's what you do.
That when you're
It's
good
kind
enough,
of
you
a
just give away your talent.
right, Helena? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. That's rough. That it's not the same, but it's similar when the Halo debacle happened with Marty O'Donnell. There was weird stuff going on there where it was just a similar situation where you have the composer basically versus management in some ways, and it comes down to like exactly what you're saying. Like there's licensing issues and who owns this and at what point was this supposed to happen and all this. It's interesting that that's like some problems in the industry are they have a lot of people on both sides. Like management made a decision and it affected all of these employees. But with something like this, it's interesting that the artist that they use, so Mick Gordon, is one person. And they're one very important person. So like for them not to have asked to have been like, oh yeah, Mick Gordon's on board. It's gonna be great. Yo, Mick, you want to do this project?
Like
Excuse me?
the epitome of doing the group project with like none of the work, right?
That's rough. Well, where have things fallen on that? I mean, is
So after the whole like debacle, like Mick came out with everything, debunking all of the falsehoods and everything that Marty had claimed to be true. Um, Bethesda actually came out with their own public statement, which is the corporate wall of text, TM, trademark. And shoot, I did have it pulled up here. Dang it.
it's the other one that we can expect. Chrome, I like that you're here in chat because there are two walls of text you can expect. The oh god, we got to put out this fire wall of text, and well, I guess this is the same one, just in a different color. The hey, we've got to push back our release date wall of text.
Yeah, this
Right,
one was not by CD Projekt Red, just a reminder.
they too are notorious for freaking employee crunch and everything. Like it's the worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst. Thank you for buying me time. I found it. I found the statement. So this is what they say in their wall of text. The recent post by Mick Gordon both mischaracterized and misrepresented the team at id Software, the development of Doom Eternal, Marty Stratton, and Chad Mossholder, with a one-sided and unjust account of an irreparable professional relationship. So already, doing the techniques.
Yep.
The brushing it off, the like, we're just gonna take that attention and put it elsewhere, finger pointing and all that whatnot. We are aware of all the details and history in this matter and unequivocally support Marty, Chad, and the team at id Software. We reject the distortion of the truth and selective representation of incomplete facts with actual quotes. In a corporate statement, y'all. Really? So
Sneer quotes.
tactless.
You don't need
like
them.
literal quotes in the you don't anyway. We stand ready with full and complete documented evidence to disclose at an appropriate venue as needed. So legal threats. Is this how you run a business, y'all? Like, I know that glitches are like their thing. You play a Bethesda game and there's a horse cartwheeling in the air and all that whatnot. Like, but
it has to be.
for their company to like glitch out like this, is this a feature, not a bug, too? There are so many red flags in like the first 2 paragraphs alone, and there's 2 more. So I'm gonna hit you with those.
Yeah.
The statements posted online have incited harassment and threats of violence against Marty, Chad, and the id Software team. Any threats or harassment directed towards members of our teams will be met with swift and appropriate action to protect their health and safety, which is reasonable. I mean, we were talking earlier about how threats like against people's health and safety are like definitely not appropriate courses of action.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they actually, are concerned about protecting their employees, but, like, at what cost? You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's a lot of whataboutism happening here, and it's not really helping the situation. It's like you said earlier, it's all of these people pointing fingers, making it murky.
Yeah.
We don't really know who to believe. They go on to say, we remain incredibly proud of its previous collaborations with Mick Gordon and ask that fans refrain from reaching conclusions based on his account, and more importantly, from attacking any of the individuals mentioned on either side, including Marty, Chad, or Mick. So here's the whole manipulation tactic come to a close. It's like, none of this is our fault, but also don't blame the other guy, please. Like, we're definitely the good guys here. But like,
it's saying like, okay, here's the final word on it. Nobody says anything else. This is over.
Yeah, nobody go.
Yeah.
This is not an appropriate venue. We have the documentation. Like, so I just don't. I'm always one who's inclined to believe someone who stands to lose the most from whatever's going on. So in this case, it's Mick Gordon. His whole professional relationship for anyone in the future is on the line here. Why would he have to lie about anything that is represented?
Especially when he said he was offered a undisclosed 6 figures to.
Right. Yeah, he got offered hush money. That's like the biggest thing. Marty offered him hush money. And you know what he said? He said the truth is more important, and I'm proud of him.
Oh, legendary.
Because everybody's trying to get the bag right now.
You could take the 6-figure salary now, but then where does that leave you in the future? Are you going to be still making that bag later in the future? This way, he secures future businesses and transactions with other studios where he can make that 6-figure sum and more over time. So, and he still has his integrity to boot. So good on you, Mick.
Yeah, Mick makes good music. He even played at the Game Awards a few years ago, if I recall correctly.
I don't remember what year, but I remember.
Yeah, I want to say 2 years ago, but I don't know. I keep saying that. Apparently, my memory of the past, whether it was 6 years ago or last year, it's always 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Time's contract.
That's right.
It's 2 Martian years ago.
Thank you. That's what I was gonna. That's what I was gonna say.
Please don't look up the conversion for Martian.
It's like, oh, it's 360 years. Okay, cool.
Vilos, what's next? Got a couple more on here.
What is next? Let me see here. Let's see. Oh yeah, the Disco Elysium. I didn't read up on this as much as I wanted to because there's so many. There's literally so many
reading these articles made me tired. You know.
Just so everybody knows, though, we've invested so much into talking about Disco Elysium on this podcast.
Right.
I feel like it's a thing to talk about. Definitely you and Chris probably, but there was not only a writer breakup, but the actual I think it was the top 3 creators attributed to Disco Elysium as far as the narrative designers and the overall concept of Disco Elysium. Post the release of the final cut, even, and the announcement of the Netflix series, and all these things that were bringing up disco huge. The 3 main talents, quote unquote, were fired. Multiple stories came out because they were fired for misconduct. They did try to tell their own stories and say that it wasn't misconduct, but at the end of the day, the multiple devs saying exactly what happened, kind of paint the story a little clearer.
And something that's interesting about that, Disco Elysium is a game that has a lot of shitty people in it on purpose.
Exactly.
They're supposed to be shitty people. So
So they were being written from life experience. Got it.
well, but I mean, it's tough because I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of characters in there that don't have, you know, that have negative characteristics that have nothing to do with any of the people on the team, or at least those three people. But then there are several times in the game where the game seems like misogynistic, and the characters are supposed to be that way. So it's not an accident, that you're supposed to feel a certain way about those characters. But then when you find out that the devs seem to be treating women poorly regularly across the board, like as their MO, it's the rule, not the exception. Then it completely throws the whole game into a different context where it's just like, oh, wait a minute, if you were a shitbag during the making of this game, where am I supposed to draw the line of like, oh, it's okay for me to like playing this game with shitty characters? Exactly. But yeah, to have so many people come out and pretty much say the same thing, that like, yeah, they treated us badly, and that they're all the way at the top again. This is like, I mean, it's kind of like what happened at Blizzard, except to a much more concentrated degree, a much smaller company, a lot more creative control from those three people who got fired. So yeah, without them, I don't know what happens to their other projects. I mean, people have signed their names on the dotted line, so I don't know what happens next. But what a mess, man. There is no doubt. Like, to what extent were things bad? That's up for debate. But the fact that like bad shit happened at that workplace, I don't think there's any question that that would have not been a good place to work at. But yeah, anytime a new article would come out, I'm just like, wait, is this the same one I read before? Oh no, this is another rebuttal to the claims from before. Yeah, it's rough when, I mean, we talked about one of the reasons that we want to discuss this issue today was that for people trying to get into the world of game dev, it's important to have a realistic idea of what that'll look like. And unfortunately, game development is just like any other industry where there's a pretty high chance that toxic masculinity will be the regular workplace culture, and unfortunately, a lot of times, especially how acquisitions happen and layoffs happen, that people can come into a company having no idea there's a problem until it's already too late. Which really is why Twitter is useful. It's interesting, as an aside, watching Twitter itself having employees like be like, hey, this thing's kind of bad, and Elon Musk like replies to them and is like, you're fired. It's just like, wow, could this be more toxic? Like, you're saying the quiet part loud, but it's just an interesting thing to see the behind the scenes perspectives. This one, like I said, the Disco Elysium stuff made me tired just reading it.
and like the funny thing is, like, this isn't just Jason Schreier reporting. The report from Kotaku was actually from an Estonian newspaper called Eesti Express, which, if Estonians, sorry if I mispronounced that, but they literally said that some of the reasons why they were fired was limited to no engagement in their responsibilities and work, including not working at all for almost 2 years while still being paid by the studio, and forcing their colleagues to compensate for their lack of effort. Like, bro, like, that's almost as bad as the misogyny and actually like just shitty treating of your coworkers.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Wild. Well, don't go work for them. Their company seems to be falling apart. So, no problem there.
The complete opposite of Elysium.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the Disco Hades? I don't know. Disco Tartarus, maybe. That doesn't really roll off the tongue the same way,
Unfortunate.
Oh, actually, I forgot that Elysium is actually in the game Hades. Lol.
Like, Elysium canonically is in the underworld, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
It's essentially heaven. It's basically heaven for souls
it's
in
like
old Greece and stuff.
It's like a circle of Hades, basically.
So that's a bummer that would play out that way. And it's even tiring just to know that stuff is happening and will continue to happen. But hopefully these things will become continually more transparent because people, especially, well, it's easier for people who have experience, who have a resume built up, because they're more likely to be able to find something, to land on their feet if shit hits the fan. Um, but being able to see regular people's opinions on this stuff is really nice in an important way. So we've got one more on here. More Matt Booty, who you talked about earlier. Uh, did you want to say anything else about? Well, I guess you did talk about it
Just
earlier. You
just
don't.
a little, yeah, I did talk about that earlier. The cool thing is that, with all the negativity, we do have some positivity. That interview with Matt Booty, again, um I was on the Friends Per Second podcast with a few cool people that you might already know, from other things like the completionist or game ranks and stuff like that. Got some really good hosts on Friends Per Second podcast. But Matt Booty also described the cool positive things, like how this whole corporate situation of all these companies being bought up by Microsoft uh, helped the game studios in general just become something new and refreshing, and have that feel of uh, a more indie scene. Like the people that are working on Fable now, it's Playground Games. They are known for Forza. Like, everybody knows that. Like, if you work on 5 to 10 Forza games, and you all of a sudden go to Microsoft and you're like, guys, I got this idea. I want to bring back Fable. Like, they like, generally they would be laughed out of the fucking studio, right? But they weren't. They came with something refreshing and something that was still familiar. They love Fable, and they gave an in-depth, uh, really strong uh, concept of what they wanted to do, and that's how Playground Games got to work on Fable. And they're doing all this work right now that, we don't know how it's going, but Matt Booty described that he's absolutely in love with what they've done, and it's all with the power of collaborativity that they've got with all these studios that are coming together. It's like the one silver lining of buying, dozens of studios, and putting them into one talent base, is you do find these gems that, when introduced with just a little bit of extra money and extra resources in general, they can do something amazing. And we're seeing Starfield. I mean, we shat on Bethesda enough already, but we're still seeing Starfield and some of these other properties come up, out of all these mergers and things like that. Perfect Dark coming, and like, the big studios are learning lessons like they are with Halo Infinite, absolutely failing in a lot of ways, being successful in the front part of it. Like, the release of Halo Infinite was great, and I think the number was something like 23 million players in that first, like, week of
I mean, but the game was.
being
I
live.
mean, a lot of people
It
certainly
was
played it. I would still
it was
call it a
great at
pretty
first.
rough launch.
It was great at first, though, but then after that first month, it's like, oh, everybody starts losing that luster, but they're learning. They're constantly evolving what they're doing. They're not sitting back like, a Microsoft of old, or fucking Infinity Ward, or some
Yeah,
the Battlefield devs,
the Madden
uh,
devs.
they're not sitting there and going, well, we released the game. That's all we really needed to do. They're working on it, and they're trying to make that the live service work for them,
Oh,
and for the gamers.
this here's pretty relevant because I was thinking about how Concerned Ape is basically one guy. I'd have to look and see because Concerned Ape is his like moniker, so I'm pretty sure that he is just one person and not a group of people. But I remember when Matt makes games, which
Yes.
I forget what they're called now, but they made Towerfall Ascension and Celeste. Turned out Matt sucked. It turned out that the guy who founded it was awful, and the rest of the company gave him the boot. They were like, "Yeah, your name's in the title, but we there are more of us than there are of you, and we all made this, so we're kicking you out, and we're gonna keep making these products that people love." So they renamed the company and they continued on. And now I don't think of anything about that guy except for the time he got kicked out of his own company for being toxic, you know?
Imagine being mutinied against in this day and age.
Well, I mean, I
It's
will
worth
say
it
it
though.
again. We're watching it on Twitter right now. You know, I know that's not gaming related, but we're straight up. Twitter is such a fascinating thing for all the reasons that we're talking about in this topic. Um, but you know, it's you get such a personalized look at things that are usually hidden. Um, sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad, but it's never not fascinating, I think. But yeah, even when stuff is bad, whether it's for a big company or a small company, there's always a good chance that you can find. Well, you could just get lucky, first of all, and just work with good people, because sometimes that happens. But there are companies that you can look out for, or certainly you can watch for good business practices to be able to know what you should be looking for in a job you want, not the job that you have to take. And the thing with hunting for a job is that you can't always choose. You don't always have the luxury of getting your first choice. So um, I picked out 3 companies to look at for things that you as a worker should expect if you're getting into game dev, and that you should hold your employer to a high bar. In the order that I took them from this GameIndustryCareerGuide.com article, which is titled "The Best Game Companies to Work For in 2022." They use a website called Glassdoor, which seems to rate. It's like Rate My Professor for game devs, or well, for you know, it's like Indeed almost. You rate the company that you work at, and it's publicly available. So in
To
the
the rating site that I know of and use.
yeah, and the 3 that I took in no particular. The first one is Take-Two Interactive. They are a huge company. They're a publisher. Their most famous games are BioShock, Borderlands, Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead, and NBA 2K. Those are bangers of games. Those are huge franchises, each one of them a franchise. They were formed in 1993 from a tiny little startup. And according to the data that was pulled from this year, this article is very recent. This Glassdoor data says that 87% of Take-Two's employees said they had positive reviews of the company, which is great. 87%, that is an overwhelming number. You know that they're doing something right there if that many people say good things about them. So according to Glassdoor, a whopping 87% of employees would recommend Take-Two to a friend. Positive employee reviews mention that Take-Two is a, quote, great place to start your career, and that upward mobility poses new possibilities for career growth, unquote. Less positive reviews indicate grueling hours and no respect for work-life balance, which I think is a big risk that you take jumping into any big company, especially when they're, it's hard to change direction in a ship that's really, really, really big. And the danger with a company is they might make a promise that you, now the developer, have to work crunch time to meet. But overall, Take-Two has a lot of positive reviews online from a workplace perspective, which is nice because lots of similar ones, even though a lot of people at Blizzard say they're happy to work there, you've got scandals like the ones we've talked about, which make it complicated, Another one here is Naughty Dog. We love those guys. Most famous for Uncharted, The Last of Us, Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, and I thought I had one more, but I can't remember what it was. But those are all bangers. Everybody knows The Last of Us, whether or not you've played
Funny
it.
that that one's on the list, though.
What's that?
It's still a little funny that that one's on the list too, though.
What, Jak and Daxter?
No, the just Naughty Dog in general.
Oh, right. Well, so let's see. So this says that according to Glassdoor, because I only took the ones that were overwhelmingly positive, 83% of employees recommend it to a friend. While some employees describe working at Naughty Dog as a world's top first-party developer and a dream come true, both quotes, others advise that it is not the best place for people with families due to long hours and overtime. Yeah.
Lord Chrome Naughty Dog's hiring. Interesting.
Yeah, so, crunch time, that's something that's become more and more common in games, and that's why we need labor unions, if that's my personal opinion about it. Because crunch time sucks, and sometimes you just have to do it because it's in your contract. But destroys your work-life balance. And I am a big advocate for work-life balance. Let's see. While Naughty Dog, do they care? Is the question that they ask on this website for each of the reviews they have, because they've got things that are good and bad. So it's like, they're good. Do they care? Maybe. They're bad. Do they care? No. Well, Naughty Dog says, do they care? While Naughty Dog might require a lot of overtime, they try to make up for it by offering employees a generous benefits package that includes a chance at additional pay bonuses, not to mention free dinners for employees working late at the office. So that is nice. I didn't expect that number to be so high, 83% on that. But it's good to hear. Naughty Dog makes some really wonderful games, and it's nice to hear that the people who work for them are happy about it. One that's not on this list, but because I saw Naughty Dog, Santa Monica Studios seems to be a pretty good one to work at, anecdotally.
Yes.
We love them. I would go look them up too. But yeah, they just made God of War, which just launched last week. But I've pretty much only seen good things about Santa Monica
Yeah.
in the past. So they'd be a very good one to look into business practice wise. But here's the third one, and here's the one that I'm probably the most conflicted of about these three. Third one I've got here is Bungie, based out here in Bellevue, just stone's throw away from me. Founded in 1991, Bungie, yada yada yada, did a bunch of game stuff. They, of course, really blew up with Halo, which we just hit the 20th anniversary for? We just hit a big, huge
21st.
21st. That's right, 2001.
You're old.
Hey, yeah, let's see, founded in 1991. Right now, Bungie has a 72% approval rating, from their employees. I did see some stuff recently of employees not being treated very well. Like, unfortunately, normal workplace stuff, but it just sucked.
Not everybody wants to work for games as a service either. That Destiny is cool, but like, how do you make shit new? How do you make a game what was it, a $5 billion license and a 10-year
Yeah.
plan? Like, it's wild.
Yeah. At that point, it's like, how do you even qualify the game? Because is it a game or is it just a living thing? Because it
Why is
lasts
Destiny
so long.
2 a sequel?
Right. Why is Overwatch 2 a sequel? It's the same game with new voice lines. It's fun. It's got plenty of changes, but it's the same game with new voice lines. 72% of their people recommend it to a friend. Anonymous employee reviews say the company cares deeply for employees and that it's an excellent culture for career growth in mind, which, based on the stuff I've seen online up here, I would agree with. I've seen anecdotally a bunch of people say that they've run into people out in the world who saw them wearing like their Bungie shirt from work, and they were excited to be able to say positive things about their workplace, essentially calling it a dream job. So you'd love to hear that stuff. Let's see. However, recent reviews call for leadership to improve, saying crunch has become a regular occurrence again. Crunch sucks. Hopefully, you can just get compensated for it, but sometimes you can't say no to it, which work-life balance. And that the work-life balance can be awful at times depending on where the current development of the game is. Yeah, so that's tough. But yeah, those are three different companies. I know Valve, depending on the day of the week, seems like both a good and okay place to work at. There are more examples on this website, which I will link here in the comments if you want to read what I did. But yeah, hopefully in the world that we live in now, we can approach, while we share our truths, we can approach a gaming industry that is more transparent. I think we're already seeing that. It's always going to be progress, It's always going to be work to make sure that happens. But there are really good companies to work for. I just mentioned 3 huge companies to work for. There are lots of indies. As long as you've got a reliable indie studio that's not just going to immediately run out of cash or has no idea how to manage its people, then fingers crossed that that'll work out. But yeah, despite all of the examples, and we could talk about so very many more of terrible things happening in the games industry. I hope to shed a light on people hoping to get into game dev to take a realistic approach to it and remember that when you do the thing that you love, don't get burnt down on it. Don't let people take advantage of you. You might be doing it on nights and weekends as crunch approaches. So make sure that that's the thing you really want to do.
Soph, where would you like to work dev wise?
Nintendo, hands down. I mean, I don't know if that's obvious or not, but like, I would love. I actually had an opportunity to. I mean, besides the one time I did work for them, I mean, like, be a Nintendo employee. It was right after Smash 4 had come out on the Wii U, and they were actually hiring for like my district, like my area, and but they were hiring in Wichita, and they ended up going for someone who already actually lived in Wichita because we both had reference from the same Nintendo employee, but
Oh.
they decided on him because he already lived there, and I was like, sad. So great.
Sometimes it'd be like that.
Yeah, but I still did become a brand ambassador for them for like half a year, so that was really nice.
It's
Would Pokemon Company be on the radar?
Um, well, I do have a reference in there. I do have some people on the know. There are some things I would have to take care of first before I'm able to do any of that. But
well,
yeah,
hey,
I would love to work for the Pokemon Company.
move up here to Seattle. There is no shortage of games jobs up here. That's for sure.
So
And we
who are
can be
you applying
friends.
for,
I'll be right back.
I don't know who I would apply for specifically, but there are a whole lot of indie studios that are up here. I know back when I was first job hunting when we moved up here, I think you sent me a link to the Risk of Rain dev who just lives
yeah.
again. They might be
Like
in
5 minutes
Bellevue.
away.
Yeah, I mean, it's 20-minute drive. There are just so many studios up here because it's a tech city, which is funny. Seattle's infrastructure for tech is actually not very good. The internet here is not very good, whether it's like mobile data or like home internet. So that's really ironic. Also, like there's Seattle proper, and then there's like Bellevue and Redmond, where most tech companies are based. And it's dramatically different between the two. Like when you go across Lake Washington to Redmond and Bellevue, it feels like you're in Silicon Valley. It does not feel like the rest of Seattle. So it's remarkable how different it is. But there are so many tech companies over there, so many. But I would love to work for one of those small companies if I was trying to work for another games company. I made the joke about working nights and weekends. Well, that's what I do with party invites. So I'm afraid that if I go in and work for an actual game dev, that suddenly this thing I love so much won't be quite as fun and whimsical as I want it to be. So
And yes, Lord Chrome is right on my choice. Monoliths would be great, but I'm pretty sure they don't hire non-Japanese people at all for that. So unfortunately, creators of Xenoblade are out of the picture. That would be
rip.
amazing. Chucklefish is definitely one I would love to work for.
Oh yeah,
Makers of War Groove and Eastward.
and they publish
Um,
they do a lot of localization. I know they localized the phone and Switch versions of Stardew, just off the top of my
yes,
head.
they did. That
Hey,
is correct. And yeah, Ninja Theory would be fucking amazing. The Senua Saga, like, oh my god.
Man, talk
Uh,
about a company that is like true blue. Like they're true to their cause and their roots, and they're very public about the things they have strong opinions about and stuff. They love, like, they make these games that are made by uh, people from, like, what am I trying to say? I forget where Vikings actually came from. What's the peninsula called? Uh, with like the Netherlands and Norway and stuff.
Scandinavia?
Yes, Scandinavia. Thank you very much.
Yay, I got it.
Um, they're very true to their roots up there, and it shows in a lot of ways. I love when you see the behind the scenes stuff that we've seen at some of the big shows, the E3s of
Dude,
the.
literally, if I could have been the documentarian that did the behind the scenes stuff for any Ninja Theory stuff, that would have been fine. I was so close to applying for the job when it came up for Saga, but the job opening was literally open for like a week because it was just
Such a high
overflowing.
demand.
Um,
Like Melina Jurgens does her own videos a lot of the time because that's what she was the video editor. But like when you're the star of Senua's Saga, she's like, well, I guess I have to do mocap, and maybe I'll do a documentary thing later. But yeah, it's wild.
Lol.
So did you just miss the window to apply?
Oh no, it was I was just overwhelmed with how quickly it closed, and I could not build up any kind of resume at the time to be like, yeah, I totally deserve that.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God, me with the next
It's
wave.
legit.
Like I literally waited till like the last moment to apply for that. I was just like, okay.
Yeah, it's like you see the opening, you're just like, ah!
That's funny.
It's wild.
Well, wonderful. Well, hopefully we can come back again here soon with some more positive examples of what's out there in the gaming world. There's also no shortage of that. You know, sometimes it looks like there's scandals abound. Perhaps there are. They certainly get shared more than a lot of the positive stories, but we'd love to bring some of those positive stories to you as well. So stick around. We pride ourselves here at Party Invite on having a positive spin. You know, we like to be as tilt-proof as we can. You know, sometimes context matters on that, but
How could you say that? You know what?
banned. Rage quit. Alt F4. But thanks everybody who stuck around for the podcast. We've got Played Up coming up after this. But we want to thank again our sponsors at Wildwood Meadery with Vilos drinking. Wait, what is it? What did I say?
Wildwood Cellars.
Wildwood Cellars. That's why Vilos handles that, because he knows how to say words. He also knows how to read. You can put that on your resume if you'd like.
Tegan just swings his axe at the script.
That's all I do. And I sniff fruits and berries. All right? That's the only job experience I've got. But thank you, everybody, for sticking around. Again, we have Extra Life continuing this weekend. We've had 2 back-to-back weekends of games, which you can find on our Twitch right now. We'll make sure to get those VODs up on YouTube, so you can go back and watch those later. But we will be streaming again from this channel on Saturday. I had some different games in mind that I was going to play. I'm excited to play Sifu at some point, but it's not going to be this weekend. Yeah, I've got some other stuff lined up, but we've talked so much about me needing to beat Spelunky 2 by the end of this year. We're only playing Spelunky 2 this Saturday. We're going to marathon this game, I kid you not, until I have beaten the game. And if I can't do that in a reasonable fashion, we are going to open it up to co-op so that we can cheese our way through Spelunky 2.
Somebody better beat that game on stream.
Somebody's going to beat that game on stream.
I don't care who it is.
I might be a ghost, you know, in the wings when it happens. Somebody else will be the one to defeat the final boss. But I'm really excited about that. I have some incentives, but you'll see that on recording day. Basically, how can you sabotage my stream? How can you prevent me from achieving my one goal? I want to complete the game. Will I? Find out on this week's episode. So that'll be on Saturday. That will start at 10 a.m. my time, not Central Time. So that's 10 a.m. Pacific. So tune in for that. I'm really excited about it. I haven't binged one single game that long in a long, long time, especially not a roguelike. So
That'd be noon Central.
yep, that would be noon Central. So really looking forward to that. Shout out again to Bats on their channel, as well as Demo Duo, both here on Twitch. Bats is if you could drop a link for those, Vilos for streaming Bats channel, and for Demo Duo streams every Tuesday. They stream a game where they decide if they want to watch, play, or pass. They play a different game, usually one that's come out within the past 2. Oh, that's cool. I forgot the shout-out feature. It popped up. It says, hey, do you want to follow Demo Duo? That's handy.
I don't know Bats' channel. I'd do it for that one too.
Straying Bat.
I thought there's no S.
Yeah, I believe it's no S. So Straying Bats is her name, but not her Twitch channel. Plays Dead by Daylight, and she is a ZTuber, so go check her out.
There's a cooldown on it. There's her channel.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it'll be up in a minute.
They also play Overwatch now, just a reminder.
Oh, yeah, they do. You can also go follow Odysseus NSJ, who you see in chat here, who's trying to raise $50 on our Extra Life team to unlock a Mario 64 Chaos run. It is chaos. It's basically every mechanic that you've ever seen in Super Mario 64 randomly refreshes and resets every, I don't know, like 30 seconds or something. Odysseus showed me a video of it, and it is insane. So I would love to raise $50 on Odysseus's link to see that. I'm really hyped. So thanks everybody who's donated, who's tuned in and lurked, and to everybody who's contributed as a player or a fundraiser. We really appreciate y'all. If you'd like to find all of the things Party Invite, go visit our website, partyinvite.games. That's got links to all of our socials, all of our videos, and a link to our wonderful Discord where we play a very wide variety of games. Yeah, we do stream a whole bunch of stuff here on Twitch, but we play even more things more intimately on the Discord. So we'd love it if you come and hang out with us. So unless either of you have anything to say, that'll be it for this. We'll hit a little BRB. We'll get played up and running. But thanks everybody for tuning around. Tuning around, that's not a phrase that people say. Thanks for hanging around or tuning in. This has been the Party Invite Show. Yeah. Catch y'all again next week.
Episode 90.
Yeah, baby.